Yeah. Do you want to talk, Abby? Say hello. Yes, hello and welcome to the show. This is the Conspiracy Crunch. Exciting stuff indeed to be on the show here today. And our first ever episode.
It's going to be a fun one, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I've been trying to get this project in motion for a long time. And it's really good to finally get the wheels turning, I suppose. So before we start our debut episode, let's do a few of the ins and outs on what the Conspiracy Crunch is going to be. This week's episode is a special one. I mean, in future we'll be doing 2 conspiracies each show, so like half hour each. This week we're doing a special one. The whole show is going to be about one particular conspiracy theory, which is, if you've been following us on Facebook or following my page AC Rock Reviews, you'll see I've been plastering this all over the place. We are covering the Philadelphia experiment today, which is a top secret military experiment that happened in 1943. We'll come on to that in a minute, because before we start the show, like I said, this is like a special feature one we're going to do, and like every 4th episode is going to be a full one. So I believe our next full episode will be the one just before we go on break to Christmas, if that's right.
I think it is. I think that's right.
Yeah, I believe that's about right, yeah. So anyway, like I said, welcome to the show. This is a Conspiracy Crunch. And if you're listening live, welcome. Or if you're listening on repeat, then, well, sit back and enjoy just as much as you would if you were listening live.
And a hello to you guys too.
Yeah, and oh, that's loud. Just trying to readjust my microphone a little bit. We came in the studio and it's a bit all over the place, so that explains why we were a couple of minutes late. Anyway, on with the show. This is the Conspiracy Crunch, and today's episode is the Philadelphia experiment. Right. So I think let's go for a little bit of the background information on this one. It's in 1955, a man called Carlos Allende sent an annotated version of Morris Jessup's conspiracy book, The Case of UFOs, to the Independent Investigation Department at the US Navy. Are you all with me so far? Have you got this?
Yes, okay, I think we've got this.
Names you've got to remember here: Morris Jessup, Carlos Allende. Right. They're the names you've got to remember so far. And then in these annotations were details about a secret US military test that took place in Philadelphia Dock in 1943.
So, Allende claims to have witnessed the USS Eldridge being turned invisible in Philadelphia Dock as part of a top-secret military experiment in either July or October 1943.
Yeah, the date itself is... there's varying sources for this. Like, it's not that this is like a thing like, oh, they don't even know it happened, it can't be true. It's just like there's very varying sources. And, of course, the claims came forward in 1955, so like 12 years later, which... You can put a twist on it either way. You can say, oh, he's obviously missing a few bits of memory, or oh, it's just taken him this long to come up with a good story. But
plus, with it being a top secret experiment, they're not going to exactly release the correct dates to you, because everything was supposed to be so hush-hush about it.
Exactly. And we'll come on to that now, actually. He claims to have witnessed the event of the ship disappearing from the merchant ship SS Andrew Furuseth, a ship he was serving on at the time. The claims got even more spectacular when Allende continues to say that for a few seconds during his absence from Philadelphia Dock, the USS Eldridge then reappeared in a naval base in Norfolk, Virginia, roughly 300 kilometres away, before reappearing in Philadelphia Dock. So he's obviously got other sources involved on this, because unless he also teleported with the ship, he's not going to know that it reappeared.
Exactly. There's definitely a lot of outside input on this.
Yeah, it's obviously it's not something that he himself has worked on independently. He's the name that's come forward, and as soon as these claims came forward, there were ideas that Carlos Allende was an alias, I should say, which was used to cover up his identity and protect himself in a way.
Yeah, because with a lot of stuff like this, people that come forth with their actual names, things don't end up going well. They disappear or something happens.
Yeah, they magically disappear, or strange, crazy things happen to them. Anyway, that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
Okay. So, although this test sounds like an incredible success, like they managed to teleport, not only make a ship invisible, but also teleport it and bring it back. This seems like it would be a massive success, right?
Yeah, it'd be mental.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be the biggest scientific breakthrough in human history.
It's like,
But
teleportation exists, guys.
yeah, but here's the catch. It's this sounds incredible, but it allegedly had dire results. Many of the crew completely vanished from the ship. Like, when it reappeared, they were just never seen again. They weren't on the ship. They weren't in Norfolk. They weren't in the base in Norfolk, Virginia. They were just gone, never to be seen again. Others were left mentally disturbed, and some were even found dead on the ship.
But imagine just being on that ship when that happened and trying to think of what actually happened to you. Like,
yeah, I mean, there's no
blow your
surprise
mind.
that like the members that survived were mentally disturbed. Just sort of seeing people around you just like be like annihilated from existence in front of you.
That would really mess with your head.
Yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah.
But we'll go into more detail on that later. But as a result of the huge amounts of casualties, the US government and Navy together covered up the experiment according to Carlos Allende's book annotations. Morris Jessup then found out about these claims and published an official report on the experiment later in 1955. So yeah, there's your big background information. You've already got a lot of questions coming up, haven't we?
Oh yeah, definitely already. It's like, how would it be possible?
Yeah, definitely.
How is it, if it did actually happen, like, how would it be kept a secret?
Yeah, because like we said already, it would be the single biggest scientific breakthrough ever.
Yeah.
Like, it would
There'd
make
be no way to cover that up.
It would make Einstein's discoveries look like schoolbook stuff, wouldn't it?
It would. It really would.
Yeah, it's crazy, sort of. So that's like one of the big doubt questions everyone puts on the Philadelphia experiment. Like, there is genuinely no way you would be able to keep something like, well, invisibility maybe.
Yeah, I can see where that would
I mean, there
happen,
has been like advancements in recent years to say that would at least be possible, but teleportation was still like, yeah, that can't be done.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, but then you think this was over 75 years ago as well.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and also, what happened to this research?
Yeah, there's no like evidence of any research for this.
No, because you mean like, even throughout history, you've got like when the Soviet Union collapsed, those Soviet scientist spies, they still kept their scientific knowledge and took them to other countries. So even though the basis wasn't there for them, the knowledge and research still existed. There's still evidence of it being brought into play in the modern world. So where's the research for this?
And there, as well as that, like, why did the US Navy conduct a top secret experiment where like the public could see everything?
Yeah, this is a big question.
That's another
as well.
part
like,
with keeping it secret. How would that
I mean,
make
if
sense?
I was the US president at the time, who was it in 1943? Harry Truman? Yeah, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, we're about to discover teleportation. Better put it in a public dock where everyone can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there you go. Anyway, we've got I'll explain this little experiment later on, but for the time being, we're going to have a little bit of a test with Abby. I'm going to show you a picture here. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to look at it, and you've got to remember as much about it as possible. Okay, you ready?
Why did you tell me you were going to test me?
Because then that would spoil the surprise, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you roughly 30 seconds, and and then I'll explain what this means later on in the show. I'll explain why I'm doing this. Okay, she's studying it quite intensely. How you doing? You good?
Yeah.
You good? Okay,
Yeah.
right. I will explain why we done that later on.
I'm nervous now.
Nah, it's alright. It's one of those tests that there are no wrong answers.
Oh no.
It
That means
will-
there's definitely going to be wrong answers.
But it will all make sense sooner rather than later. Okay, anyway, so let's talk about this book that Morris Jessup received from the so-called Carlos Allende. It's the annotated book is the start to this entire conspiracy theory, so it makes sense to cover it near the beginning of the show, right?
Yeah.
Because like, if we don't talk about this now, all of the other information is going to seem a bit wishy-washy and not really stick. So in 1955, a US Navy captain, Sidney S. Sherby, he liked his S's apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Imagine saying his name really fast.
Yeah, Sidney S. Sherby of the Independent Investigation Branch of Navy of the that's an even bigger mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sidney S. Sherby of the Independent Investigation Branch. Lots of alliteration on the show today. I like that. But Anyway, we're getting sidetracked. So, Mr. Sherby of the Independent Investigation Branch of the Navy receives a paperback book of Morris K. Jessup's The Case of UFOs, which, if you don't know, is a legendary conspiracy book. It's like the first scientific, detailed journal of the existence of UFOs.
Not gonna lie, I haven't read it.
No, I mean, me neither, but I've heard of it. I mean, because the guy who wrote it in Jessup, Morris Jessup, he was a very acclaimed scientist at the time, and he was sort of the first professional scientist to come forward and say, like, UFOs are real, here's a book about them.
Yeah.
Which was, at the time, in the 1950s, was very controversial for someone of such a professional stature to come forward and say something so radical. But, yeah.
When Sherby... Oh, am I continued?
Yeah, go ahead.
So when Sherby opened the book, he discovered that the book had been filled with annotations with handwriting, which appeared to be from 3 different people. These annotations essentially solve the mysteries of the universe. And they included details about UFOs, what powers them, how they fly, interdimensional travel, and visiting places beyond Earth in the first person.
Yeah, it's all very big claims. It's not like small time stuff. It's like big stuff.
Yeah.
Like you said, like the very answers of the mysteries of all the universe. It's like everything you could ever possibly want to know about time travel or space or other dimensions or time. It was all in this book, in annotations, which, again, is quite a wild claim. Yeah.
But imagine being the one to find this book. It's like the question of, would you share who it was from, or would you claim it as your own knowledge?
Yeah, because it's interesting, isn't it? Because one of the other episodes we're going to be doing in the future is going to be about a guy called Bob Lazar. It laps over with this bit a bit, because we won't get into much because this isn't a Bob Lazar episode.
No, it's not.
Yeah, so you'll just have to wait for that episode and tune in yourselves to hear about it. So yeah, tune in again. If you hadn't already convinced you, do it. So,
Definitely do it.
Yeah, anyway, back to these claims. They get a little bit more fantastical when it also talked about the characteristics and ethos of alien race that piloted these spacecraft. So it's not just talking about the mechanics and technology, it's talking about a culture, like an intelligent, culturalized life form or society beyond Earth. And it's talking about it like this person has been there and witnessed it himself or is even a part of it.
Some crazy claims.
Yeah. But most relevant to this subject, the comments in the book also included details about a top-secret Navy experiment for World War II where a Navy warship was turned invisible. This is, of course, where the USS Eldridge and the Philadelphia experiment come into play. The exact words from the book read, and I quote, US Navy Force Field Experiments 1943 yields invisibility of ship and crew. I mean, there's no grey area about that, is there?
No.
It's not one of those things that's open to interpretation. It's quite obvious what he's insinuating there.
This is what has happened.
Yeah, it is.
There is no...
Yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, compared to other stuff that's in the book, the Philadelphia experiment this little comment seemed quite small scale compared to the rest of it, I think.
Tame.
But at the same time, I feel like this was the thing that was latched onto because it was the most provable thing. Like, you can't really read that in a book and go, oh yeah, that's it, I'm going to go discover an interdimensional race now that have a intelligent culture and ethos.
Whereas with something like this, there will, I can imagine at some point in the future, there will be like the scientific discovery and technology to be able to maybe prove something like this.
Yeah, I mean, invisibility is sort of, like we said earlier, there have been experiments like, I mean, it's still very basic stuff, obviously, even if it's just like radar invisibility for ships or invisibility for stealth bombers. They're not actually invisible, but in terms of radar and technicalities, they are.
Yeah.
Sort of things like that. But, Allende claimed the ship was engulfed in green fog as an electromagnetic field got stronger. Basically, what happened with this ship is the way they made it invisible was they got like a circuit or they got a load of electromagnetic discharges around the ship and under the water, and they turned them all on simultaneously.
Ooh.
And that is what created an electromagnetic field, which the theory claims was strong enough to not only turn the ship invisible, but also teleport it.
That's got to be
a pretty strong field.
Yeah, very powerful field to be able to do something like that.
But, I mean, scientifically, it is possible.
Yeah.
Because you think, like, the ship was metal. Metal's a conductor of electricity. I mean, that's, like, basic stuff. But it comes into that. Let's have a look. You've got... yeah, but here's a few things that go with it. It's the USS Eldridge, which was 93 meters long, and it weighed 1,240 tons.
That would be incredibly difficult to move.
It's going to take a very big electromagnetic field to get that invisible. Not just invisible, but actually teleport
to move it as well. Imagine trying to move something that heavy.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. But you think, like, 93 tons, that's a very big ship.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't even the big battleship. It was like an escort ship for the Allied soldiers. Because during World War II, when America joined, the way Germany kept them out of the war for so long and tried to cripple their input was the US would send soldiers over on unprotected boats and the Germans would just U-boat them.
Yeah, it'd be easy pickings.
Yeah, so then US made these like little lightweight battleships that would go alongside them to protect them, and that's what the USS Eldridge was. It was one of those ships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With it being a strong electromagnetic field, the ship began to slowly reappear before disappearing into a flash of light and temporarily appearing at the Norfolk base. And this creates the claim that the teleportation was accidental, explaining why the experimentation took place in public view.
Yeah, because it's you wouldn't think they would have the intentional outcome of turning a battleship invisible, and then they wouldn't have that expectation or teleportation and go, let's show it to the world.
Yeah.
If it was even if the US wanted to show its strength, it wouldn't have such a top secret military operation in public eye.
No, it wouldn't. But there's also the thing of it'd be very hard to control where it'd teleport to if that were.
Yeah, I don't see how they could have predicted that.
No, so that'll be another reason why it was deemed as accidental as to why it was in public view.
It's lucky it landed in water, to be honest, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if it landed on top of a skyscraper? That would have been a lot harder to cover up.
There would be no covering that up, and just the backlash from that.
Yeah. Why is there a battleship on top of the Empire State Building? It's a weather balloon, don't look.
The little top spiky bits.
Yeah,
we'll just call that the string.
Yeah, just a boat just balancing on top of the spike of the Empire State Building.
That would not go well.
Yeah. Anyway, we digress. Yeah, amazed by this, Sherby, the US Navy soldier, or Navy captain, I should say, who received this book, summoned the original author in Morris K. Jessup and discussed the book's annotations with him. Jessup said he recognised one of the sets of handwriting from letters he had sent from a man called Carlos Allende. This is where the name comes from. He didn't actually put his name in the book. It was this little, connection between Jessup and Sherby that got them to this alias in Carlos Allende.
Yeah.
So Jessup published an initial report almost immediately after discovering this book, and then spent 4 years researching the case study independently. So he spent a long time looking into this.
That is a long time.
Yeah. Obviously he was still doing his scientific stuff alongside it.
Yeah, but at this point, 4 years.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning that he did get a lot of professional criticism for this.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Because you can imagine in the 1950s, everyone was a lot more conservative in terms of their views about paranormal and extraterrestrial stuff compared to how we are today. And he was ridiculed by a lot of his peers in the scientific field for carrying out this research and even considering it, really.
Yeah, because there's so many things about it being hard to prove.
Yeah.
So without proof, what are you actually doing? They'd get slandered.
Yeah, but exactly. So he must have smelled blood in the water in order to keep it up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if he had like loads of cold leads, he would have just given up to sort of preserve his career, you would suspect.
Yeah, I can imagine that being the case.
Yeah, but then you've got in 1955, he tells his close friend, Dr. Manson Valentine. You don't have to remember that name. This is the only time it will come up.
Not an important one.
No, but it's just sort of a bit of reference. So he tells Dr. Valentine he will publish a big breakthrough in his findings, but the day before he's due to publish them, he is found dead by an apparent suicide.
How convenient's that, though?
Yeah, it is extremely convenient. But yeah, it does make you wonder. So he died on the 20th of April 1959. So right at the end of, well, he couldn't have carried on the research afterwards,
No.
obviously, but sort
He's
of
dead.
just as he had peaked at his research.
But especially, there's got to be something. I can imagine the government stepping in.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be an actual suicide.
No,
So there'll be
no,
something
it's
the
like-
government's
I
hiding
mean-
to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, due to journalistic regulations regarding suicide, we are not allowed to specify his specific method
Yeah.
in which he took his own life. But if you do want to look it up, it is a very strange way to do it. And the circumstances and the location of where he did it as well is also very strange.
I'm actually
But-
kind of curious about this now.
Yeah, look it up afterwards. But yeah, obviously we're not allowed to say because of regulations and stuff. But if you are interested, you can do some more backup research into this after the show, which we recommend anyway.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of shows like this is to sort of get you thinking, get your senses going, open you up to more inquisitive opportunity.
And then if something does pique your interest, go have a look and explore it further and then come up with your own opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, so it's many people were left questioning his method and choice of location. The rumor mill begins to turn in what is sort of at that point there wasn't really a big conspiracy theory group. I would say big conspiracy theory groups didn't really become a thing until after JFK.
Yeah.
Because that was like the first big mega conspiracy theory. So, but yeah, that is probably going to be our next full hour episode. So we'll go into more of that then. But so the rumor mill begins to turn that he was actually murdered rather than suicide. But in 2002, remember what we were saying earlier about his public ridicule and career sort of damning research.
Yeah.
His daughter said that he had a lot to live for, but countered it by saying, and he quote, "How did he do it?" was her initial response to finding out about his death. So she didn't know it was a suicide at that time, but she just
No.
made the assumption that he had done that.
Yeah, which is it's a very sad thing to think about, but with
Yeah.
everything going on,
Yeah.
you can imagine then that's like a pretty like
Yeah, because
firm thought in your mind that that's probably what's happened.
yeah, there's very big mixed signals there, though, isn't there?
Yeah, there
Because
is.
like she's like expectant of that outcome, but at the same time, she said he had a lot to live for. So it's a weird one, isn't it?
It is.
Mm.
It is quite odd.
But yeah, there you go. That's the little research on Morris K. Jessup for the show. He will be popping up again, obviously, because most of this stems from him. But we've got a lot of science stuff in the show
Ooh.
today, so we've
Yes,
we've had to split it into two so you don't fall asleep, because there are some very long words in this, and if I'm honest, I don't really understand what all of them mean. So we will, yeah.
I, for once, am the smarter one, because
Yeah.
this is my kind of field. I quite enjoy this part.
Yeah, all right then. I'll let you take the lead for this bit then.
So before we look into the history of it, we're going to look into the science of it, obviously, as we've been talking about. So first of all, conspiracy theorists claim that this experiment was based on research by Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla in the 1930s. So this research was called the unified field theory, which looks to reconcile the theory of relativity with electromagnetism. So the theory goes that from Einstein that space and time aren't separate, but continually intertwined in what he called space-time. So it's that
Yeah.
it's a bit like explaining how David Tennant's Doctor Who explains space and time.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
They're not
it's-
separate.
It's
They're
just one big
yeah.
giant
They're
squiggly line
not
coiling
one in
together.
the same, but it's like trying to think of an analogy that goes with it. Sort of like when you plug in your TV cables. Imagine you've got two TV cables, and they're sometimes like they've got like the plastic wrapping stuck together.
Yeah,
They're two separate wires, but they're also one in the same.
yeah, they
It's
work
like that with
together.
space and time. But
So-
yeah, it's the theory goes, where are we? There.
In theory, if
Yeah.
you have a large enough gravitational magnetic fields, you could bend the space-time continuum and basically alter your location and time around you.
Yeah, which is very interesting. So basically, the Philadelphia experiment not only achieved this, but also achieved teleportation through time travel. So, I mean, the science is there. It's not one of those like crazy theories where there's no scientific backing to it whatsoever.
There's a lot of scientific backing which people have
Yeah.
been working on for decades at least, trying to
Yeah.
prove something like this could be actually possible.
But yeah, again, it's a mixed bag because at the time, Einstein's unified field theory hadn't officially been completed.
Yeah.
So there are theorists that suggest he actually completed it early and the US government demanded the results first before he publicly released it. Or then there are the naysayers who say that he actually hadn't completed it and they've just used that to sort of fuel the theory,
Yeah.
to add fuel to the fire, I guess.
Well, either way, it's going to kind of add fuel to the fire with the thought of the government stepping in.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, so what makes this so fascinating? Well, if it actually happened, then the Philadelphia experiment would be the biggest scientific breakthrough ever, like we said earlier. I mean, it achieved time travel, invisibility, and teleportation all in one hit.
So the fascination of this so-called experiment has inspired thousands of conspiracy theorists, hundreds of books, and even a film of the same name in 1984.
Yeah, I feel like that's where most people know it from now.
Yeah.
Like, when I mentioned this show to my mum, she was like, oh, I remember seeing that film when it came out. It's like, yeah, and then it's like, it's one of those weird things where it's like, it's not, you can't really say it's a film based on a true story because it's a conspiracy theory. But
it does
Yeah.
start to get it out there and have more and more people looking into it.
yeah, so you've got, there's some more strength to the theory here and a few alternative claims that are definitely worth looking into. It's, at the time, Albert Einstein was actually working with the US Navy, which I think makes it very interesting. This isn't a conspiracy theory, this is a legitimate report that you can find online, and there are official documentations from the US Navy signed by Albert Einstein and sent to Albert Einstein in 1943. He was working with the US Navy at this time.
So he's trying to develop conventional weapon deterrents, such as defences against underwater magnetic mines.
So yeah, again, that electromagnetism comes into it again.
Yeah, it does.
So it's sort of it's all in the right area. He seems to be in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing, which I think is where a lot of the fuel comes from as well.
It's definitely something easy to build on.
Yeah.
To have valid information.
Yeah.
Maybe I wouldn't say exactly facts, but there's valid points there that help confirm this.
Yeah,
kind
I
of.
mean they don't sort of rule it out, do they?
No.
I mean, it's not one of those things where you can just find one fact and go, yeah, that's it, we're pulling the plug, that's it at the end. These ones are sort of like, there's strength here, there's potential, but yeah. So one of the main questions is the choice of location. Like we mentioned earlier, if you're doing such a delicate operation with high military intelligence, the highest military intelligence at that, I can't imagine they were working on anything bigger than this at the time.
No.
Theorists answer this by saying that the boat was only meant to achieve invisibility and the side effect of teleportation was not planned.
But if you did your research properly, then there'd be some form of evidence suggesting that could be a slight side effect from it. There's always something that comes up with side effects of doing something like this.
But
So it's odd
again,
that one doesn't come out.
Again, we could go back to the unified field theory not being completed yet. Maybe it
True.
wasn't finished and they just sort of went with it on a limb and then they used this research to help finish it
Yeah.
as a possibility.
That would be a strong possibility there.
Yeah. Or, I mean, no one had ever even considered experiment along these lines. So there's no way of knowing what the side effects were.
True.
But yeah. And believers also claim that the documentation surrounding the experiment was destroyed and the USS Eldridge's naval records were forged to say that it wasn't even in Philadelphia for that date. Which,
That is some
yeah.
pretty big cover-up.
Yeah, which would explain, because one of the big dampeners to this theory is that the USS Philadelphia was never actually the USS Philadelphia. The USS Eldridge was never actually in Philadelphia, according to its naval records, and all of the crew have also denied ever going there. But if I was part of a Navy crew on a top secret military organisation, where if I talked, I could become a fugitive. I would probably pretend I was never in Philadelphia either.
But to be fair, the amount of money they'd have to be offered as bribe for them to, as compensation for what happened to them.
Yeah.
Plus,
the
just
ones
being
that
given that
survived
much,
anyway,
yeah, the ones that survived, and just being given that much money, you're not gonna not gonna even think about blabbing your mouth.
No, but there is no actual official numbers on how many people died, because obviously there's actually
Conspiracy theory.
Because this is a conspiracy theory. The US government's not going to say, oh, you know that experiment that didn't happen in Philadelphia, 7 people died doing that.
Yeah.
They're not going to say that. But anyway, we've got another name for you now. So little recap on the names you've got to remember. You've got Captain Sherby from the Navy, you've got Morris Jessup, and now we've got a man called Al Bielek who is coming into the fray here. He is a very interesting person in this case. He is an ex-US Navy scientist who claimed to be part of the Philadelphia experiment team. During his research phase, he said a lot of the team suspected, is what I was meant to say there, that the calculations are wrong or incomplete, which goes back to the unified field theory, not quite being ready. He says the experiment was carried out by an engaging powerful electromagnetic field around the ship with a stepping crew on board while the science team and officers watch from a safe distance.
I can understand why they want to be from a safe distance.
Yeah.
Just being around something like that would be insane.
Yeah, and also the fact that he mentions a step-in crew would maybe go into the fact why none of the official crew said it was never in Philadelphia. Maybe the official crew didn't know.
Maybe they didn't, and they did this as a way to keep it all on the hush and lowdown, so it wouldn't really matter what happened.
Yeah, but then also, however, something I've not put in my notes is there's a couple of the sailors there. When they did the documentary about it in 2002, one of them said that he actually went to the dock they were building the ship at so he could get to know the ins and outs of it while it was being made. Ooh. And he said he basically never left its side the whole time it was in the US Navy. And he said it never went to Philadelphia. But again, like we said, if you saw an ultra-sensitive military experiment in which loads of your peers died and you got a big payout to not talk, you wouldn't talk.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, if that's what they can do to you by accident, imagine what they'd do on purpose if you spilled.
Exactly. Mm. So the next bit is going to be a bit gruesome, so be warned. I don't know how to say his name. Bielek. So Bielek claims that the experiment on the ship itself was a success, but it came with dire consequences for the crew. According to Bielek, the human molecules got merged with the ship and caused all kinds of chaos. So 2 sailors were found physically buried in the steel of the ship. 2 were found...
Can you just imagine that?
Yeah, just being...
He doesn't specify if they had died or not either. No. They could have been buried alive inside the ship.
It would be crazy.
Yeah.
But another 2 were found standing upright on a bulkhead, also buried in the steel, with one more still alive. So the one was still alive when this happened, when he was found. Mm. And a 5th sailor, he had his hand buried in the steel up to his wrist, whilst other sailors were vaporised or set on fire by the power of the electromagnetic field. And families were told that the step-in sailors were lost at sea for the war effort, just as a cover-up.
Yeah.
Because imagine being told something like this. With all the hush-hush of it just wouldn't happen, so...
Yeah.
Cover-ups.
Because, I mean, obviously there's no official names tied to this. There's no one saying, like, oh, this person died in the Philadelphia experiment. Because if you look up US Navy sailors that died during World War II in 1943, it's a big list.
Yeah, there is.
Because, like we mentioned earlier, the German U-boats downing ships.
Yeah, it'd be easy to just say,
it would be easy for a
sea.
conspiracy theorist to just pick a load of names off of that list and go, oh yeah, he died in the Philadelphia experiment.
Yeah.
It's very easy to fabricate that, which I think is why conspiracy theorists haven't named any names for it.
It'd be impossible to do with the amount of people dying about that time.
Hundreds, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. But yeah, so there's that. Back to the sciencey bit now, which is going to be interesting.
Part 2.
Yeah, so you've got the big sciencey bit now, which is with the science we discussed earlier in mind. The theory is USS Eldridge created an electromagnetic field so big that it created a hole in time in which it fell through before landing in Norfolk, Virginia. So a way to a way to explain this is imagine our reality and time as having like layers. So you've got like levels of time, one on top of the other here. The theory is that the experiment on the USS Eldridge created an opening in those layers, and it essentially fell through time, which is a terrifying concept if you think about it.
Just thinking about it, just falling through time.
Yeah, it is.
That would really mess with someone.
Yeah, it is it's a very scary thought, and yeah, it is. It's very weird to sort of consider that, but yeah, it's theoretically unified field theory could have been used to render an object invisible, but in 1943, like we said, Einstein hadn't finished his research on unified field theory.
But even with modern technology, only subatomic photons can be teleported or made invisible. So photons are microscopic.
Yeah, can we just take a second to appreciate the scientific advancement on that?
Yeah.
Like, photons are microscopic, which means you can't see them.
500
it's like, hey, see that thing
big.
you can't see there? Boom, I just made it invisible.
Hey,
you can't see it, you've achieved nothing.
You can't see it anyway.
I mean, it's good that they're trying, but come on.
Yeah. So a photon is about 500 nanometers big. So to put that into perspective, a sheet of A4 paper is about 100,000 nanometers thick. I mean,
yeah, so
you think of how thin a piece of paper is.
Yeah, so it's like a subatomic particle is currently the biggest thing that we can turn invisible with modern technology. And then you think, if you put that into perspective, that you put that in, like, the USS Eldridge weighed 93 tons.
That'd be a lot of photons to go disappearing.
Yeah, imagine how many, like 500 nanometers big compared to 1,240 meters. This is a big difference. Yeah, and also on top of this, in 1943, there would not have been enough energy on the planet to make an electromagnetic field big enough to teleport a 93-meter Navy boat. Like, on the entire planet.
Yeah, there'd be
not just
no chance.
I mean, you could argue that, like, if they said, oh, there wasn't enough power in the dock to do that, then you could say, oh, maybe the US just imported some special electromagnets to do the experiment. But there was not enough power or electricity on the planet at the time to achieve this.
So even today, the energy needed to make, like, a 1,200-ton battleship disappear would be almost immeasurable.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane how much energy you would need to do that. I mean, it takes a lot of energy to turn a 500 nanometer photon invisible.
Yeah.
And you think it's currently 2019. This experiment allegedly happened in 1943. So in 76 years, we've either taken a monumental step back or
the world's biggest, like, jump backwards that could possibly be done.
Yeah, it is crazy to think that there's sort of that there's that much involved.
It happened on accident as well.
Yeah, accidentally doing it as well. I mean, you could argue that maybe there was a power surge that caused it, but a power surge of that scale,
it would have been noticed worldwide.
Yeah, it probably would have caused like a natural disaster of some kind, having that much, like an electromagnetic storm or an earthquake or something.
It really
would have disrupted everything. And during World War II as well, that would not have gone unnoticed.
No, it really wouldn't.
You think tensions are high, 1943 especially. I mean, by 1943, the war was sort of on the come down a little bit. Like, it peaked with like the Battle of Stalingrad in 1942. After that, it was on the down, but obviously there were still massive casualties and tensions were very high.
Brutal.
Yeah. But yeah, a energy boost that big would not have gone unnoticed, and government would have been forced to make an official statement on that.
They would have.
And to my knowledge, there's no documentation stating that there was a huge power surge in Philadelphia. But yeah, there you go. We've got a few more. Before we go on to sort of the ending bit for this is quite big.
Finale.
So the finale is quite long. So before we get on to that, we've got a few more facts for you on it. You've got the freezing fight, which is something that is associated to the Philadelphia experiment. This one is just pure speculation, however. It's there's no actual origin for where this story came from. So we're not sure if it actually did happen, or if it's just something that a conspiracy theorist is like, oh, that seems like it could have happened, and just threw it into the batch to see what would happen. But the freezing fight was allegedly a fight between sailors from the ship who survived the experiment. So this is happening a few days later. Obviously, the sailors that survived are extremely traumatized. They're very anxious. They've got a lot of mental baggage, shall we say, following that. They're very traumatized. Tensions are high between each other. They're not getting along. They're very agitated. It breaks out into a fight in one of the sailor bars.
What was speculated was that during the fight, they faded to be translucent every time they hit each other, before disappearing entirely into the front of stunned bar workers and drinking sailors.
Yeah, this does sound like a drunken sailor story.
It
to
does.
be honest.
It's a bit of speculation, but
yeah, you can just imagine a drunken sailor like sauntering back to his cabin, just like, I just saw some people disappear. Did you now, Dave? Yeah, did you? Of course you did. Go lie down.
Did.
Go lie down and take some aspirin, mate. You'll be all right. But yeah, it does seem like a bit of a drunken sailor story.
It does.
Because it's sort of scientifically, I'm not sure how that would happen.
Yeah. Speaking of sailors, in 1999, 15 sailors from the USS Eldridge met up for the first time since it was commissioned by the US Navy, and they laughed about the possibility of the Philadelphia experiment, claiming that the ship never even went to Philadelphia, let alone had this crazy experiment done to it.
Yeah, but
they're being hushed.
Yeah, because like they said, it wasn't even in Philadelphia, let alone the Philadelphia experiment being attempted. But like we said earlier, if you've been paid a lot of hush money and you know that your family's lives depend on it, you're going to stay quiet. But it's also, but at the same time, 15 sailors is quite a lot of people.
It is. To think about it, speculating over something that could have possibly happened.
And they've all got to keep the same story straight in order for it to keep it on the hush.
Yeah.
Which would be very interesting to consider, really. But if you're wondering what the actual fate of the ship itself was, the USS Eldridge, it was the Navy ship was sold to the Greek military and renamed Leon in 1951, like the film. So yeah, it's spelled exactly like that. So in 1951, it was sold to Greece. However, the US Navy decommissioned it in 1946, meaning it spent just 3 years in service for the US Navy, before it went 5 years completely out of use when it was sold to Greece. Leon served the Greek Navy for over 40 years before finally being decommissioned in 1992 and eventually sold for scrap in 1999. I think that's quite a sad ending.
It is.
It is.
Just
I feel
being
like
sold for scrap.
Yeah, I think it deserved more than that.
With such a big theory about it, it'd be something miraculous to be able to go and actually see the ship that we're on about.
Imagine the stories that ship could have told as well.
Exactly.
You think from like 1941 even, when it was commissioned. No, it wasn't. 43.
Try again. There you go.
It was commissioned, got there in the end. To 1996. It's over 50 years it was in service. It must have seen a lot in its time.
Definitely would have.
Yeah, but I guess it's a way of the times, I guess. Technology is always going to be advancing, and you've either got to keep up or get left behind, I suppose.
Yeah.
And USS Eldridge got left behind, I guess.
But sad to think.
But at the same time, there are ships that are just sort of like relics at this point. Like they've got the HMS Belfast on the Thames in London, haven't you?
We do. Yeah.
Like that's not in use anymore, but that's still nice to go. Have you ever been to HMS Belfast?
I haven't.
It's really good. There's some really creepy waxworks in there, though. Ooh. I wouldn't recommend that. I'm still not over that Doctor Who episode with the mannequins.
Oh yeah, no, the mannequin. they were creepy.
But yeah, anyway, we're getting sidetracked again.
We are, sorry.
Another bit of additional information for you was a Varro edition of the book, which is VARO. I never actually heard of a Varro edition until I was doing the research for this. I wasn't aware it was a thing. But apparently it's basically if someone annotates a book, it's all of the handwritten annotations are then added to the book, and it's kind of like a secret.
Ooh.
Like a secret members book, I guess. That you can
is
get.
Cool. It's kind of like the journal from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Half-Blood Prince's book.
Yeah.
With all the notes on.
Yeah, a bit like that. So apparently this was released. Well, it was going to be released with all the adaptations added in print alongside the book's original content. However, there were rumours that officials high up in the US government and military positions prevented the full sale release of this book and detained copies before its release for themselves.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Yeah, which is
But
very strange.
If they did it before it's released, they can like see what's being said, and if they didn't approve of anything being said, then get rid of it. But it's very suspicious.
Yeah, it
seeing
is.
people in the government and military like detaining this book saying about this experiment that
Yeah,
happened.
I mean,
it's very suspicious.
Yeah, if this actually did happen, it's very interesting because obviously if it was all speculation and none of it was true, it's essentially a fiction book.
Yeah.
So there's no point blocking its release. It would be like the US government banning iRobot.
Yeah.
It's completely fiction. There's no harm that's going to be done from it. But at the same time, it's when you consider that, it's like the fact that they blocked it, if it did happen, of course, it would mean that there was at least one thing in there that they didn't like and they didn't want people knowing. Which would be, it's interesting to consider. Because, I mean, it's obviously nothing from the original book, The Case for UFOs, because that was published years prior. And that was a very interesting one.
Yeah.
But, that is...
But they're the additional notes.
Yeah, so that's some food for thought there, but it is definitely interesting to consider why the government would block the release of a book if it was all completely fake. But at the same time, we can't guarantee this actually happened.
Yeah, true.
So, much like this whole story, to be honest.
It's a big conspiracy.
Yeah. Otherwise, if we knew it definitely did happen, it wouldn't really be a conspiracy, it would be news.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, so if we can't guarantee it happened, then it becomes a conspiracy theory, and there you go.
I think it's time we got into the big finale.
Yeah, let's get on with it. Let's wrap it up. So, in 1960... Actually, do you want to say this bit?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, go for it.
So, in 1969, the alias identity of Carlos Allende is discovered by an ex-sea merchant named Carl Allen. He brought his naval records to public view to prove his identity, said the whole thing was a hoax.
Interesting.
However, he revoked his statement in 1979, although skeptics claim this was money motivated, as his initial reasoning for admitting it was a hoax was based on the fact that he didn't like other people making money from his claims. This is according to the 2002 documentary on the Philadelphia experiment.
Because there were people writing books about Philadelphia experiment. Obviously, there was a film about the Philadelphia experiment years later. He didn't really like the fact that, and then, like I said, the books, the films, newspaper articles, people were printing it on stuff. Like, you could get posters of the book pages. He didn't like the fact that people were making money off the back of his claims.
Yeah.
So he stepped forward and said, yeah, it was me. I made it all up. Give me the money for it, basically. Which is, I don't know, it seems like quite a shallow ending to it.
It is, but...
I like to think that's not true, but to be honest, it's the most reasonable thing that's been on the show so far.
It is.
Yeah. But, also in 1979, so again, the same year that Carl Allen relinquished his claim that it was a hoax, a researcher called Robert Gorman, who was from the same town as Carl Allen, discovered the Navy records and a large box of documents and letters belonging to Allen, courtesy of Carl's dad. Now, this is a massive coincidence, this bit in the theory.
Yeah.
Basically, Robert Gorman had spent years researching into the Philadelphia experiment, and he moved to, I can't remember exactly where it was Carl Allen was from, but basically he moved to a new neighbourhood, and the person living next door to him was Carl Allen's dad.
Oh.
And then Robert Gorman mentioned the Philadelphia experiment and this Carl Allen character he had been trying to track down involved with it. And then the dad went, oh yeah, that's my son.
That's weird.
Yeah, the massive coincidence,
Yeah.
I know.
Well,
and then,
coincidence.
Yeah, and then Gorman said, oh, have you got anything that he's written or got any of his stuff? He was like, oh yeah, and he came out and he was inside for about 15 minutes, and at this point Gorman was like, yeah, I'm just never going to see this guy again.
No.
And then
no
he
way.
came back out with this big box, like carrying it with two hands, full of like old newspaper cuttings and letters that he'd written and books he had annotated. And it's very interesting. It's like the books in there and the annotations are very similar to the fashion of the ones in The Case for UFOs, which kind of proves that Carl Allen was Carlos Allende, and it proves that he was indeed the alias. It doesn't prove he was right about what he was saying, but it proves it was him that was writing it.
It's a very obvious alias as well.
Yeah.
Carlos, Carl, Alan, Alander.
Yeah, he could have put a bit more thought into that.
That's not a good alias.
No. It's just like, it's like someone going to me, what's your name? Oh, I'm Chandler Aronson. Just like, it's like, it's obvious, isn't it?
Or just go with the obvious one. I'm Chandler Bing.
You think a person that had like claims as either someone who had the imagination to come up with these claims or someone who witnessed these extraordinary things would have a brighter imagination than that for an alias.
For such a big claim, you'd want to have a better alias to not be caught out.
Yeah, definitely. But basically, it's Gorman spoke after seeing all of these annotations and stuff in the letters and books and newspaper trimmings. Gorman spoke to Carl's brother, Richard Allen. It's a very generic name family, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got Carl, Richard, Allen. Lots of. I hope they have a brother called Alan. Allen.
Oh my God.
How much would you have to hate your kid to call them Allen?
You really got to.
Yeah. Anyway, basically, Gorman spoke to Carl's brother Richard, who revealed that Carl would always annotate any book he brought and send it to the people who may be interested in his input to see what he thought. And it was a coincidence, according to Gorman, that Sherby had taken interest in the book, who then showed it to Jessup, who years later may have taken his own life after being ridiculed for his belief in UFOs. So basically, it's looking like the Philadelphia experiment is just like, it's just been blown way out of proportion.
Yeah.
It's just like a little, I mean, back to what we were saying about the annotations in the book, it was one little annotation out of the whole book, which said like a book that an experiment yielded invisitivity.
Yeah, it led to 4 years of research.
Yeah, 4 years of research and alleged suicide.
Extreme.
And then decades worth of research. Even like films and books and TV shows, documentaries. It's become a big fascination area. And it sort of seems crazy. It sort of shows how easy it is to...
But at the same point, it's very easy to argue either side of whether it did or didn't happen. There's so much information there.
I mean,
for you to be able to have your own views and opinions.
Yeah, I mean, sort of, you can't prove it didn't happen, I guess, which is where which is why it persists, I guess, as a conspiracy theory, because you can't say, oh, it definitely didn't happen, because it was 76 years ago now. The amount of people that would have been alive for that is a decreasing number at this point, and
so
people that would have living memory of that is quite small now.
Yeah.
And people that were in that area as well makes it even smaller. But anyway, I'm gonna make sense of why we did that little memory test now. So, Abigail, can you remember any of the 9 photos that I showed you?
Yes.
Okay, go for it. Did you write them down?
No, I didn't actually.
I was going to say you cheat.
There's a black cat with the green eyes.
Yes.
Blue butterfly.
Yes.
3 carrots.
Yes. Ooh, is she going to get this one?
I can't remember the next one in sequence, but I know random ones. I can't label them all in sequence. There's the snowman with a stripy red and white hat.
Yes.
There is a yellow box with a red ribbon.
Yes.
I can't remember. I can't remember the rest of them. They're the ones I remembered.
You had a black cat with green eyes, the blue butterfly, 3 carrots. They're the ones you got. There's a tomato, 2 bells, a Canadian flag, a snowman, a present, and a pig.
Yeah.
The reason that we've done that experiment is to show you that how time can influence our memories. So basically, the point of that was, you think that's been 45 minutes since we did that?
Yeah.
Your memory's already altered a little bit. You think these claims were made in 1955 to 1943. Imagine 12 years. If I asked you to remember them in 12 years' time, you wouldn't have the slightest. Yeah.
I might remember the first one, maybe.
Yeah, so the point of that experiment was to show that time can alter your memory of things. And that is one of the theories, and what happened with Carl Allen. It's like he witnessed what was... so let's have a look at this. The most likely outcome is a combination of both the above-mentioned points, plus a technique called degaussing. This method is used by ships where electrical wires are run along the bottom and interior of the ship to create a small magnetic field that would make the boat invisible, in quote marks, to German magnetic sea mines. That all adds up to everything we've said, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like Einstein working on the... it's got the electromagnetic fields in there. It's got the Einstein mine deterrent stuff put in there. It's got the electricals. It's got everything. It's even got the invisibility factor in it as well.
But it's likely that the rumours of the Philadelphia experiment were just huge exaggerations of this, like we've been talking about.
Yeah, so basically it's... what we were saying about the altered memory is Alan may have witnessed this test taking place, and then he remembered like the invisibility bits, and it may have been a foggy day or something. He remembered hearing about the electromagnetic pulse stuff. He may have remembered all of those features, and over the course of 12 years, he's just elaborated it in his imagination.
Yeah.
Which has then led him to say, like, oh, the ship was actually turned invisible.
And this is what happened.
Yeah.
I definitely believe this is real because
that's the
bits
thing.
And pieces.
Yeah, because that's the thing. In his head, he wasn't lying because he's saying how he remembers it.
Yeah.
Even though it's not true, he isn't lying, which is interesting. Or he could have just been a compulsive liar that wanted to be famous. Either way. But at the same time, if he wanted to be famous, why would he take 14 years to come forward and say that it was him?
Yeah, true.
And especially 10 years after Jessup had died. But yeah.
But then again, it's up for you guys at the end of all of this.
It is all up for you to decide.
We do have a Twitter page now. It's just been made.
Oh.
So at the Conspiracy C4, don't know why it's done that. there is a post up for you guys to vote on whether you think the Philadelphia experiment is real or fake. It's up to you guys to decide.
And make sure you tune in next week because that's all we've got time for today, I'm afraid. That was the Philadelphia experiment. Next week we are looking at a very interesting case of a book called the Hud Codex. That is allegedly a 500-year-old book found in Hungary that is completely unreadable today. Not even computers can translate it, and no one knows who wrote it. Also, on the Facebook page, there is a poll where you can vote for the other conspiracy theories we're going to be covering. Your choices are between Skinwalker Ranch and the lost city of Atlantis. I mean, last time...
I hope it's the Atlantis one. I'm so looking forward to discussing that at some point.
Last time I checked that poll, it was a dead level. There were 50% votes either way. And also make sure you follow the Conspiracy Crunch on Facebook. Just type in that, it will come up. Follow us on Twitter as well. And that is the end of the show. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you guys.
Make sure you vote on that poll, because if it finishes dead even, I'm not really sure what we're going to do, to be honest.
Rock, paper, scissors. Yeah, it's the best way to decide things.
Yeah, we can have the divide. But I would say we'll have the deciding vote between us. But what if we both say a different one?
Yeah, that'll be a bit awkward.
It's not a problem. We'll flip a coin or something.
Let us know what you guys think. And thank you for listening in.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in. We will see you next week to talk about the Hud Codex and either Skinwalker Ranch or Atlantis. But until then, I've been Aaron Chandler.
I've been Abigail Murphy.
And thank you. This has been the Conspiracy Crunch. See you later.